She was my stepbrother's fiancée. Until she became mine. When my father remarried, I never thought it would change my life the way it did. His new wife came from money, the kind of money that meant private schools, mansions, and parties where everyone pretended to like each other. Along with her, she brought a son, my stepbrother, Daniel. Daniel and I were never close. He was polished, ambitious, always playing the golden boy, the heir who could do no wrong. I was the opposite, more reserved, more skeptical of the glittering world our parents thrived in. For years, we lived under the same roof but never really connected. We tolerated each other, exchanged the occasional word, and then drifted back into our separate lives. Until the day he announced his engagement. That was the day everything began to unravel. Her name was Isabella. I met her at the engagement party, held in a ballroom dripping with chandeliers and crystal glasses filled with champagne. The moment she walked in, time seemed to bend around her. She wore a navy silk dress that clung to her in all the right ways, her dark hair falling in effortless waves, her smile lighting up the entire room. Daniel introduced her with pride, his hand possessively at the small of her back. "This is Isabella," he said. "My fiancée." And that's when she looked at me. Just one glance, but it was enough to scorch something into my soul. Her eyes held a flicker of something I couldn't place, curiosity, defiance, or maybe recognition, as though she already knew this night would change both our lives. At first, I tried to ignore it. She was off limits. Family, in a way. The rules were written in stone, you don't covet what belongs to your brother, step or not. But desire has no respect for rules, and Isabella was temptation wrapped in silk and secrets. In the weeks leading up to their wedding, our paths crossed more often. She came to the house for dinners, for planning sessions with my stepmother, for late-night discussions about flower arrangements and guest lists. Daniel was often absent, too busy chasing deals and flaunting his success. That left Isabella in rooms where I happened to be, sometimes by accident, sometimes because I couldn't stay away. One evening, I found her in the library. She was curled up on the leather couch, flipping through a book she clearly wasn't reading. She looked up when I entered, her lips parting slightly as if she'd been caught in some vulnerable act. "You have more books here than people in this house know what to do with," she said, forcing a small laugh. I leaned against the doorway, studying her. "Books don't lie," I replied. "They don't wear masks or pretend. Maybe that's why I like them." Her gaze softened, and for a moment, she seemed to forget who I was. "I could get lost in a place like this," she whispered. And when her eyes lingered on me just a little too long, something cracked open inside me. From then on, it became a dangerous dance. A brush of her hand against mine as we both reached for a glass. A glance held a second too long across the dinner table. A conversation that dipped too far into intimacy when no one was listening. We didn't speak of it, but we both felt it, the pull, the slow-burning fire that threatened to consume us if we let it. The night everything changed was during the rehearsal dinner. The family had gathered in a rooftop restaurant overlooking the city skyline, the kind of place where every glass sparkled and every laugh sounded rehearsed. Daniel was drunk on attention, surrounded by friends, basking in the glow of his upcoming marriage. Isabella excused herself, slipping away from the noise. I followed, though I told myself it was just coincidence. I found her outside on the terrace, the city lights painting her face in gold and silver. She leaned against the railing, her shoulders tense. "You don't look like a woman about to marry the man of her dreams," I said softly. She turned, her eyes glassy. "Maybe that's because I'm not." The words hung between us, heavy and dangerous. My pulse hammered in my ears. "Then why are you doing this?" I asked. She shook her head, her voice barely above a whisper. "Because it's what's expected. Because Daniel offers security, status, a future everyone else approves of." She paused, her eyes searching mine. "But what if that's not what I want?" The air between us was electric. I stepped closer, so close I could feel the warmth of her body. "Then what do you want, Isabella?" Her lips trembled, and then, like the world itself stopped spinning, she kissed me. It was soft at first, hesitant, but quickly deepened into something raw, desperate, forbidden. My hands tangled in her hair, her fingers clutched at my shirt, and for that stolen moment, there was no wedding, no family, no consequences, only us. When we finally pulled apart, both breathless, her eyes filled with fear. "We can't," she whispered, her voice breaking. "This will destroy everything." But the damage was already done. In the days that followed, we tried to pretend it hadn't happened. We avoided each other, avoided the fire we'd unleashed. But the harder we tried to resist, the stronger the pull became. And then came the night before the wedding. The house was quiet, everyone asleep or pretending to be. I couldn't sleep, haunted by thoughts of her, of what could never be. I wandered the halls aimlessly until I found myself outside her room. The door was slightly ajar, and inside, she sat by the window in her white slip, staring at the moonlight. She looked like an angel caught in chains. When she saw me, tears filled her eyes. "I can't do it," she admitted, her voice shaking. "I can't marry him." "Not when," she trailed off, but she didn't have to finish. I crossed the room, pulled her into my arms, and kissed her like it was the last breath I'd ever take. That night, we gave in completely. Every kiss, every touch was a confession of the love we hadn't dared to speak. Her body pressed against mine, her whispers filling the silence, her tears mixing with our laughter. It was reckless, it was wrong, but it was also the most real thing I'd ever known. Morning came too soon, and with it, reality. Isabella slipped from my arms, her face pale. "What have we done?" she whispered. The wedding day arrived, but everything felt off. Isabella walked down the aisle, her smile brittle, her eyes avoiding mine. Daniel stood at the altar, proud and oblivious. I sat among the guests, every muscle tense, every heartbeat screaming at me to stop this madness. And then it happened. When the priest asked if anyone objected, Isabella froze. Her silence stretched on, unbearable. And then, in front of everyone, she shook her head. "I can't do this," she said, her voice clear, strong, final. Gasps echoed through the room. Daniel's face turned red with shock and rage. She turned, her eyes finding mine, and in that instant, the truth was laid bare for everyone to see. The whispers began, the scandal already erupting, but none of it mattered. She walked past Daniel, past our families, past the shattered expectations, and straight into my arms. The fallout was brutal. Daniel disowned us, my stepmother called it betrayal of the highest order, and my father's disappointment cut deeper than any blade. We became pariahs in the world we'd grown up in, exiled from the circles of wealth and approval. But none of that mattered, because we had each other. We left the city behind, built a life on our own terms, far from the shadow of family names and expectations. It wasn't easy. There were nights filled with doubt, with guilt, with fear of what we'd done. But every morning, I woke up with her beside me, and that was enough. Looking back, I know some will never understand. To them, it will always be betrayal, scandal, something unforgivable. But love doesn't follow rules, and it doesn't ask for permission. It burns, it consumes, it takes what it wants, and once it has you, there's no letting go. Isabella was my stepbrother's fiancée. But she became mine. And I will spend the rest of my life proving that, forbidden or not, ours was the only love worth fighting for.